some initial observations from Scott Camporeale and Leigh Matthews.
Oh, I just thought they dominated the second half, Leigh, in all categories. Essendon, the ones to highlight, they kicked 13 of the last 15 goals, the Bombers, and they kicked 11 goals, 3 to 2 goals, 6 after half-time. So really clinical at the end of the day. We challenged Essendon if they could get control through the middle of the ground because of Gawn's impact around the clearance. They certainly did that. They were outstanding, particularly Peter Wright. I thought his second half was very, very good, and that gave him some ascendancy going inside forward 50. They really dominated field position after that. They had 44 entries and they had 28 scoring shots. So their efficiency after half-time, once again, we spoke about it at half-time that Melbourne was more efficient, even though the inside 50s were in favour of Essendon, but they were able to tidy that up.
It always felt like if it became a high-scoring game, Melbourne had more chance of being able to kick a big score. But in the end, 12 goals in the second half. I mean, Essendon, they certainly didn't move the ball sort of quickly from back half into the forward line. It was really, which is why a very high disposal game. A lot of just chip kicks to each other. But I guess that was their plan, maybe, to try and stop the Melbourne running rebound, I guess. But that seemed to work okay in the end because they've kicked the 17 goals, kicked a good score. The inside 50s were 53 to 51, so nothing majorly different there in terms of actual field position. But yeah, the forward 50 for Essendon was the one that came out on top as a bunch.
Well, and in particular, we highlighted about whether they could mark the ball inside forward 50.
Yeah.
They ended up in the second half, in particular, they kicked 8 goals from marks inside forward 50. So you saw Edwards, we saw Candid, we saw those guys that now, in particular, are going to launch at the ball. And we spoke during the call, Leigh, about is this the time now for Peter Wright to play definitely more ruck with Blackiston? I think they've got enough firepower down there. Yes, they're young, those key forwards, but what an opportunity for Brad Scott to blood those 3 young forwards all together. And you throw in Kako, who I think arguably probably had his best game as a small forward.
Yeah, he was good. He was good early when Essendon were just were competitive, but not. Well, Peter Wright, he's had 18 disposals. He's had his 8 marks. I mean, like a lot of the time that tall players, it takes a long time for them to be able to be strong enough to play in the ruck, and he's got the height. And you'd have to think that on what happened in the second half, you'd have to really persevere with him as thinking he's a different type of ruckman. He might be more agile, more mobile, take more marks, not as good in the heavy ruck work as say a Max Gawn would be. But you'd have to say in terms of value today, I reckon Wright was certainly more valuable than Max Gawn was in the second half.
Well, he had 8 clearances as well, Leigh.
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't get his hand on it, which he didn't necessarily against Max, now he's not going to come up against a Max Gawn every week. So if he can compete really strongly and then get to work at ground level like he did today, that just adds another string to his bow.
Well, they got they're young in the ruck. I mean, Blackiston's only a young guy too. So
he's a key defender essentially, isn't he?
Yeah. So actually, that would seem to be something go forward for Essendon to see if Wright can be a value as more follower, I guess, the old following turn, the marking around the ground, rather than necessarily dominating the aerial stuff at clearances.
And I also thought Essendon senior players, Parrish, Merrett at Langford was great. Yep. Ridley back into the team made a bit of a difference. Ben McKay had a couple of moments with the ball in hand, but he had 9 intercept possessions from that perspective. Dersman's an experienced player now, hit the scoreboard a couple of times. Durham was really strong and tough around the contest. So those senior players, that's what they need, Essendon. They've got a young group coming through and they need the leadership of those guys. And then all of a sudden Archie Roberts is becoming a really important player. Came second in the best and fairest, but outstanding back-to-back weeks. They throw in Sardis from a VFL point of view. He deserved his opportunity. He had 29 disposals. And then, as we said, Farrow, Kako, Reed starts, Day Wicks starts coming through, Caddy and Roby get an opportunity. So they've got a nice balance there, and a win sometimes just builds confidence, doesn't it? It just
breaks the mould. I mean, really, like the 17 consecutive games where you walked into the rooms like this and miserable, and now they've got the upper of actually being able to win the game. So it's been a very difficult last half of the season.
Thanks for joining us, Zach. Congratulations. Just take us through the emotion of the moment. The song was unbelievable, not only to get the win, but to get such a convincing one, your first time of kicking 100 points in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nice to see, especially some of those young boys that are putting in power of work. Get a little bit of reward today. It's an unforgiving game. It's a ruthless game. To go 17 in a row losing has been pretty tough, but the boys keep fronting up. We've got some really good young players and their character's very strong to bring in Roby and watch Roberts, Farrow, Kako, Caddy. These guys love the moment, and it was good to get there at 3/4 time. I think in the past we've probably been hoping we hold on. I think the boys in that group and that huddle were keen to really put the foot on the throat and start that last quarter well and get rolling. I thought the boys stood up really well.
Zach, it's so exciting when you got the scoreboard running your way early in the last quarter. The energy levels that just overflow from being in that position. Great day at the footy for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember our chat a few years ago. I think footy's physically and mentally demanding, but that emotion is also really important as well. And I think it's hard to get confidence and when you're not getting the scoreboard going your way. I think today when that started rolling, a bit of confidence started flowing, the emotion was there, the feeling was there, and I thought boys kept their calm, albeit we're getting excited. I think guys are still playing the right way and not hoping, getting forward, and I thought that was a real credit to those boys around the ball, but also behind the ball to get Ridley back is a massive help. It sets us up so much better, and I thought Mackay was better for that, and Reed was better, and as I said, Farrell and Roberts, two young players that are really exciting, got a bright future.
Just one more for me. Often, ruckman, the big tall guys who might be key position players for most of their careers, but then they might be able to become ruckman. Like Peter Wright, he's 29-year-old, but maybe he could become the type of sort of round-the-ground follower late in his career that will give you guys a surge. Yeah,
not to compare him off one game, but we've always felt when he's played as a second ruck, he's probably played his best footy. It gets him up around the ball. He can get some, not easier ball, but he can sort of intercept mark and be a bit freer just staying as a key forward. And, I've sort of likened him a little bit to Darcy Cameron, that ability to get down the line. He's quite mobile. He actually is pretty good in and around the contest with hit-outs as well. So, I think with Nick Bryan coming on really strongly back from his ACL, he should be back in a couple of weeks as well. It should be a bit of selection dilemma, which is starting to be a bit nicer for us.
Zach, Scott Camporeale up here. Congratulations. Great win. I thought you took control, particularly around the contest. I mean, most Melbourne teams, as you know, they're really strong around that part of the ground. You probably didn't get reward for effort in the first half in terms of your efficiency and inside 50 opportunities. So in the first half, you had 31 entries, but probably couldn't hit the scoreboard. But the second half, you opened the floodgates and kicked 11 goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we went through our forward line during the week, it was Edwards 2 games off an ACL, Kako's in his second year, Caddy's only played a handful of games, Roby's first game, so we felt like if we could really set up well around the contest, have a stable defence, we'd get our opportunities. It was just whether or not we could take them, and as you said, after half-time we started to get a bit more momentum and take those opportunities, but yeah, I felt like we're really composed and calm around the ball. We knew that we were playing the right way, but as you said, we just couldn't quite connect as well as we probably would have liked, but more and more games into those sort of 4 or 5 forwards, their connection's going to get stronger and better. And as I said, it was good just to get some polish at the end.
Did you go into the game sort of thinking that Melbourne flood back really quickly? So we got to use the ball, across half back, across midfield, a lot of uncontested marks, but just trying to change direction. I mean, was that something you actually went? It happened today, but did you get into the game? Did the game give it to you, or did you plan to do that?
To be completely honest, I spent most of my week planning to get tagged, so I had 4 or 5 options for what that was going to look like for the team, so I spent most of my week sort of planning and being really ready and aware for what that could look like and how we could pull them apart. I think the fact that it didn't happen, we still played that way, and I think that probably is a little bit of a blueprint for us moving forward. If we can win those contests, get it out to space, own and control a bit more of the game. The first 4 weeks, I think the teams have outmarked us a lot, which has meant we've been defending for large periods of the game, whereas it was nice to do that in reverse today, get it back across the centre of the ground, own the ball for 30, 40, 50 seconds, make them have to defend and then own our forward half. So, I think that's the game at the moment. The best teams at the moment can have those 100, 120 marks, maintain possession, own the ball, not have to defend as much at high speed.
And Zach, I mean, the first time in a while, you've kicked well over 100 points, outstanding, but your contest was very good as well, and that kept you in the game. But defensively, it's probably really been your work on averaging over 100 points in the first 4 weeks. So to keep Melbourne at 68 would be a real highlight for Brad.
Yeah, it's such a hard balance. I think offence and defence go so hand in hand, and our inability to get from in to out and then connect going forward really has exposed our defence. So, obviously our defence needs to improve, but I think when you're not connecting offensively and not controlling the ball, you end up really spaced out, and it's really hard to defend the other way. So as much as, yes, we are just certainly focusing on our defence, we certainly want to keep trying to score more, because as we know, if we've got the ball, they haven't, and I think that sort of goes hand in hand, as I said. So pleasing to score 100 points, reduce them to under 70s, probably the first time in a long time. So pleasing signs, and it's just nice, as I said, to get that bit of a winning feeling.
Zach, you know more than anyone the way the news cycle works, the scrutiny that's been on you guys and the Blues, sort of taking it in turns with the negative press for the start of the season you've had. How have you coped with the scrutiny? I guess an extra layer in the week just gone, given that even your wife Alexandra became part of the news cycle with her social media post from Gimlet.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's such an amazing opportunity to play for such a big club. With that comes a lot of clickbait and a lot of talking about us. But yeah, for us and for me personally, it's all about being process driven. And I'm a very curious person, curious player to get better, and I'll keep going to work and putting my processes in place to be a better player for the club. But I understand the footy ecosystem likes to talk, and it's such a humbling experience to be able to play for such a big club and play AFL footy. So I never take that for granted. What comes with that will be. I think when you're in the bottom four, you give people the opportunity to talk. So for us, we'll keep trying to get better, keep getting games into these young boys, and after today, hopefully a bit of confidence grows from that.
Hey, Zach, I'm very interested in your leadership role now. You gave up, obviously, the captaincy at the end of last year. So do you take part in leadership meetings? Do you take a back seat? How's it work now for you sort of behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's probably been unique. You get pulled apart a lot being captain of any footy club, but especially the Essendon footy club. So it's a pretty demanding role off field. I've really enjoyed freeing up a little bit during the week. I've probably been able to spend a lot more time one-on-one going through individual elements of players. I've loved working with Archie Roberts and Jacob Farrow so far this year, but it's just a lot more conversational, not being pulled into meetings and media and sponsors and dinners. I love getting home to be with my son. That's my priority at the moment, so that's my favourite thing to do. But when I'm at the club, I feel more available for those other players. I'm able to talk more with the coaches around game plan and what I'm feeling out there, and then they're backing it up with evidence. Then we get a plan together. So in a weird way, I probably feel like I'm influencing the group in a much better way, and probably leading more to my strengths as a player and a leader. Very focused on that individual care and that element of getting better, and then real game plan strategy sort of stuff. So I can coach on ground and try and help those younger players set up in the right spot. And
as we let you go, Zach, the challenges keep coming. A big few weeks ahead for the club. The Suns up at People First Stadium next Saturday. Anzac Day speaks for itself, and then the reigning premiers at Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I think the days of an easy runner over in the AFL at the moment, it's a pretty even comp. Every team seems to be improving, and with the way the rules are now, I don't think there's going to be any easy games for the rest of the season. So great opportunity to get better. I think Gold Coast is clearly a really talented team, and then into Collingwood Anzac Day, to have another sort of 8 or 9 guys experience that for the first or second time is going to be a great experience for them. And I think we'll really fast-track their development. So, I'm just keen to get up to Gold Coast, back into Anzac Day, and to play Brisbane. I mean, the reigning premiers are the best team in the comp, probably by a fair way. So, again, another great experience for us to experience that as well.
Appreciate you being with us, mate. Bad luck today. What was it that you felt was different to the last couple of weeks where you've really been in some fine form?
Yeah, I felt footy's tough, isn't it? Obviously, last week we played really well. Today, it just felt like the Essendon Footy Club wanted it more than us. If I reflect as a group, it just felt like contests all over the ground. I think we saw a stat. I think we were minus 30 throughout the day, and that's not just the midfield group. That's down back. That's up forward. They were really sharp. We felt like we couldn't really run today. We didn't give the same effort as we probably had the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. And as I said at the start, AFL footy's tough, so it shows you where you're at. And really disappointing, but at the same time, we can reflect and learn, and our first day back in the club this week is Tuesday, so hopefully we reset, and that's what sort of footy club that we want to become, is that we're just consistent, whether we win, lose or draw. We come into the footy club on Tuesday and we really learn from it, but I think there's going to be a lot of learnings out of this one.
And I guess watching you from the aerial view, Jake, I mean, you very much were getting your numbers, protecting your back third when Essendon had the ball, and they were happy to kick it around across the middle of the ground. Is that something that you've been doing more regularly, or just that's the way it worked out today?
Well, to be honest, it's something that we spoke about during the week. We just weren't able to implement it. We knew that Essendon wanted to sort of come back through the corridor. They probably chipped it around a little bit more than they have in the past, but I think that's what teams do, and we just weren't able to adjust. I'm sure if you look at the stats, they would have had a lot of uncontested marks, whether they were their backs or their mids. So, and it probably felt like we weren't really connected today as a defensive group. Not only the back 6 or 7, felt like throughout the ground we were fighting our own battles, which is really hard to do in AFL footy these days. And as you saw, Essendon took full advantage of that, and it's probably something that we're going to have to, if teams are going to do that to us, we're going to have to take it away.
And Jakey, Scott Camporeale up here. Particularly around the clearance game. I mean, you highlighted the clearance. Leigh highlighted, Essendon's ability, to control the ball through kick mark. But I was really surprised because up until half-time, your clearance game was probably the thing that kept you in the game with Max. But after half-time, Essendon either changed their philosophy or you guys just didn't hunt the ball enough around the middle of the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that... if you reflect after half-time, half-time we were right in the game. We weren't probably playing our best, but we understood that, we feel like that we're a team that the longer the game goes on, the better it was, the better it is for us. But today that definitely wasn't the case. Essendon really come out after half-time, and it's hard as a player to understand what it all is out in the ground. But the clearance numbers obviously was one thing, but then. Looking at the second half or thinking about the second half, our defensive contest behind the ball wasn't at the level, and Essendon took full advantage of that and ended up kicking a lot of goals in that last quarter when, we weren't able to get that stability back there, but also just winning our contest. So it's one thing, I think as a backs group, you always pride yourself on if the midfielders do lose the clearance, you can hold yourself up and, win the ball back, but we just weren't able to do that in the second half like we were in the first half.
Jake, footy moves forward very quickly, as you well know. The reigning premiers next Sunday at the MCG. I think I heard correctly earlier in the interview, you said you're not due back in at the club until, Tuesday? Have you still got more gather-round commitments over the next 24 hours here, or do you fly back tonight?
No, we fly back tonight, but... I think we've had, this was a 6-day break for us, and we've obviously travelled over early for the gather-round commitment, so the club will give us an extra day off, and I think it's just good for the young guys and even the more experienced guys to just sit back and reflect on what the week was, where you went wrong, where you think that we can improve on. But as you said, it moves pretty quickly. The reigning Premier is the best team for the last couple of years at the MCG, but we'll be excited by the game that we're going to be playing in, but at the same time we're probably going to have a lot of learnings on Tuesday morning, and then we're going to have to move on pretty quickly because I saw the result on the AFL app that they're won by about 30 points out there, so they're obviously in some great form now, and we're going to have to really take it up to them.